Welcome to the Get Sculpted podcast. We're your hosts, Tiana,
Jordana,
and Marilyn.
This podcast is all about cutting through the noise and giving you the real deal on fat loss, muscle building, and what it really takes to build your 2.0 sculpted self, inside and out. Our motto is to work smarter, not harder. We'll break down science-based and actionable strategies to optimize your metabolism, ditch the diets, and create a sustainable, fit, and healthy lifestyle that actually works for you. So if you're ready to get stronger, not just skinnier, and embrace a body you love, hit that subscribe button and let's get sculpted.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Get Sculpted podcast. I'm Marilyn, and I'm going to be hosting our episode today. And I want to start by asking you this question. What if the thing that you've been searching for to overcome burnout, stress, or even a plateau in your fitness journey has actually been with you all along? In our conversation today, we're going to be diving into a powerful tool that's as simple as it is transformative, and that is your breath. This episode isn't just about fitness or breath work. It's actually about breaking free from what holds you back and stepping into a stronger, more aligned version of yourself. And to help us explore this incredible topic, I am very excited to introduce you to someone who truly embodies resilience and transformation, and that is Kristine Rafanan. Kristine is not only our in-house Get Sculpted breathwork practitioner, she is also the founder of Soulful Breath, and her journey from personal trainer to healer is going to inspire you to think differently about what's possible for your own life. So Kristine, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Of course. Yeah. So let's start at the beginning because that's the best place to start. Can you share a little bit about your background, what led you to become a personal trainer, and then ultimately what made you decide to leave fitness and pursue breathwork full-time?
So that's a loaded question, so buckle up. My journey actually started when I was 19. I had a very deep desire to help others, particularly those struggling with mental health. I decided to pursue social work, but during my introduction to that field in university, my professor said something that really shifted my perspective. She told the whole entire class, you can't take care of others until you take care of yourself first.
That's powerful.
And that hit me really, really hard because at the time I was struggling with depression, anxiety, low self-worth, and physical health challenges like weight, and I had PCOS at the time. So I realized that I wasn't in a place to support others effectively. So I made a difficult decision to actually drop out of university that year and focus on my own healing. So a handful of months later, I wasn't in school and I decided to get a job. I was working as a server at a restaurant and also dealing with the loss of my grandmother. I watched her health decline for many years leading up to her death. Diabetes, loss of sight, hearing, mobility. And her death was a wake-up call for me.
Right.
So I decided I actually wanted to focus on losing some weight. And so I actually hired a personal trainer. That was like my first step to my own healing. I worked really hard within the first year. I lost 70 pounds and the experience, it was life-changing. So it not only transformed my body, but it also gave me new sense of purpose. I wanted to help others the way my personal trainer had helped me and guided me. So I decided to become a personal trainer to help others transform their lives.
I love that.
Yeah. I spent just a little over 10 years in the fitness industry. I started in corporate gyms, moving to independent training in 2019, and eventually co-owning a gym from 2020 to 2022. My experience as a personal trainer taught me so much about why people get stuck in cycles of burnout, perfectionism, yo-yo dieting, regaining the weight back and forth. I worked with so many clients who believed they had to push harder, do more, and perfect to see results. I really saw firsthand how these beliefs led to exhaustion, frustration, and ultimately giving up because what they were doing wasn't sustainable. I also witnessed a lot of clients who struggled with low self-worth, the belief that they weren't good enough unless they looked a certain way, unless they weighed a certain number. And I worked with a lot of clients who struggled with emotional eating. Like, I remember going to every meeting with like a new potential client, and emotional eating was like the biggest thing. Like, oh, I eat my feelings.
Yeah, we see that a lot too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's more common than people think. We all think we're alone in it, but emotional eating is a big thing. But yeah, I worked with people with emotional eating, self-sabotage, mental health, anxiety. And during this whole entire time, I must admit that I was also stuck in the same cycle. As a trainer, I felt the pressure to lead by example, to show up perfectly for my clients, my gym, and my personal goals. But honestly, underneath it all, I was running on empty. I was approaching my goals with a sense of fear and the belief that I would never be good enough. I was ignoring my own needs. I was struggling with emotional eating. That emotional eating, let me tell you, it did a lot to me. And I was also struggling with depression and anxiety. But regardless of my own struggles, I loved what I was doing. I love teaching boot camp. I love watching clients hit PRs and get stronger. But the major turning point was in 2020 when I lost my father to pancreatic cancer. His death led me to seek out answers. Like, why did this happen? Other than cancer, I mean, you know, people are like, oh, he was sick. But I knew that deep down inside, there's something else. And that's when breathwork came to me. It came to me twice from different people through a mentor and a friend. And I won't lie, breathwork sounded ridiculous to me.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, well, breathing, what can it do? And I hated meditation at the time. I couldn't like turn off my mind.
Right.
But everyone's like, breathwork's different. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll give it a try.
Right.
So as I began practicing breathwork, I experienced incredible shifts internally. My anxiety decreased. I felt more compassion and gentleness towards myself. And the things that used to trigger me no longer did.
Wow.
I felt a sense of relief, and I felt that it was actually permanent, like waiting for something bad to happen, for the ball to drop, but that didn't happen. I felt more present, more grounded in my body. And that for me was huge, especially because I was struggling with emotional health.
Right.
But yeah, it was extremely transformative for me, especially with my mental health. I can't say that enough. And over time, I realized that breathwork was just not a tool for mental and emotional well-being, but because it helped me so much on my personal journey, I knew that it could complement fitness. So I knew deep down in my heart that breathwork would be a game changer. So I decided to get certified as a breathwork facilitator. And I actually started introducing it to my personal training clients and my gym members. Like, I vouchered hard for it. I was like, hey guys, try this thing. Like, it's done this for me. And you're going through similar things, and let's give it a try. And it was almost miraculous. Like, fitness often focuses the connection between body and mind. But breathwork really brought in the missing piece, which is the spirit.
I love that.
It created a more complete, holistic approach to my fitness and wellness practice. And in 2022, while I was in a ceremony, I had a moment of clarity. Spirit spoke to me and said, if you want to make a bigger impact, you need to leave the fitness industry and pursue breathwork full time. Ugh.
Wow.
Let me tell you, that moment hit me hard.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like, I felt nauseous for days.
Wow.
I was extremely scared, but I knew that I was being called to step into something bigger than what I originally had thought, a new path, and one that aligned with my original desire to support people's mental health.
Yes.
So I decided to leave personal training behind. I left my gym and I founded Soulful Breaths, where I now guide people on a deeper journey of healing, helping them reconnect with their breath, transform their lives from the inside out. And honestly, as scary as it was, it has been the most rewarding decision I have ever made in my life.
I love this story. And I'm so glad you did on a personal note, because that brought you to us. And that's exactly one of the reasons why we were so passionate and inspired to bring you on the team, because I agree. I think that there is a missing link. You know, even in the fitness industry, for a lot of people, there's not even the mental part. It's just solely physical.
Yeah.
And so connecting that, I have so many people who come into our community who weeks, months come back and say, this is exactly what I didn't know I needed, right? It's the missing piece. This is what's clicking. So I love that. Your story's so beautiful, and I'm so grateful that you're with us.
Me too.
So what I want to kind of turn to now is the idea of burnout. Okay, so you talked about some of the things that you were experiencing. Can you describe what that looked like for you, and how it affected your health physically, mentally?
Yeah. So burnout showed up for me towards the end of my personal training career, more specifically in 2022. I was running on empty. Physically, I was exhausted all the time. I remember my mom would call me and she'd be like, how are you? I'm like, I'm tired. She's like, oh, you're always tired. I'm like, oh, okay.
I'm tired of being tired.
Yeah. And honestly, though, I was working from 5 a.m. I would wake up at 5 a.m. to get to my gym for the 6 o'clock boot camp. And I was there till 9 p.m.
Wow.
And so I was really exhausted. In between, I had clients and this and that and, you know, gym owner duties. But my body felt really, really heavy. And I started to experience like chronic tension in my neck. Like no pillow, no position. It would do nothing. And I would wake up tired. My energy would crash midday. I would have to find like secret pockets in my gym to like try to power nap. I would take a crazy amount of stimulants and caffeine just to keep up with my life at work and at home, and honestly, everything else in between. My sleep was restless. I would either lie awake with my mind racing or wake up multiple times during the night. I went from having clear, beautiful skin to breaking out. My body was literally screaming at me.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. And, you know, I just thought it's because this is life.
Yeah.
In no way did I connect it to burnout and my nervous system, but, you know, that was just physical. So mentally, burnout felt like brain fog from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. My depression was actually getting worse, and I was experiencing weekly panic attacks. The stimulants didn't help either, let me tell you.
Of course.
But it was overloading my system. And the hardest part of it all was that I didn't feel like I could actually stop. Like I felt like I had to keep going. As a trainer, a gym owner, I believe I had to show up for my clients, my gym members, my business partners, and my family, and myself, and everything else.
Hold every direction.
Yeah. And, you know, it didn't matter how drained I felt. I felt like I just had to keep going. And I felt guilty even thinking about taking a break because I didn't want to let anyone down.
Right.
But eventually my body forced me to slow down with injuries, physical pain. My mental health was getting worse. And honestly, I had an inner knowing that something was deeply, deeply out of alignment with my life. Like I just did not feel like I was in the right place anymore. But in the same breath, burnout became a turning point for me. It made me realize that, number one, I wasn't practicing what I preached. I was helping others achieve balance in their lives, but I was completely out of balance myself.
With yourself, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when breathwork became, honestly, a lifeline for me. The more I did it, the more I realized that I couldn't live that way for the rest of my life. I knew that something had to change. So I did breathwork, all kinds of breathwork. I found all these people, and because it gave me space to breathe, pun intended, and time to help me reconnect with my body and emotions in a way I hadn't done before. So through breathwork, I learned to let go of the guilt around rest. And prioritize my well-being. And I think so many women, especially those of us who pour into others, can relate to the feeling of running empty.
Absolutely.
Looking back, you know, I wish I listened to my body. I wish that, you know how people are like, oh, you get sore and you get injuries as you age. That's getting old. That's actually not true. That is your body telling you, hey, slow down, listen to me, come back into balance. And I know that the younger version of myself really wished that someone had told her that. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I can relate to that. I swear, I've said this to you offline before, but so much of your story resonates with me. And like you said, I think there's so many people, so many women listening who do exactly that. They do everything for everyone, always, and there's so little left for themselves. Everything you talked about, the physical ailments, right? Your body's screaming. I've actually used those words exactly, which gives me goosebumps that you also use it because it's just such a perfect way to articulate what was happening for me as well. My body was screaming. I mean, I was losing my hair. I couldn't sleep. You mentioned about the skin, same thing, breakouts all the time. Like it was wild. And for the longest time, I didn't even know that was related to what I was, because I thought the same thing. This is life. It's aging. It's hormones. And I had a lot of people kind of telling me that. They corroborated that story, right? They were like, oh, you're getting older, or this is life. It's stressful. So I think this is so powerful because if you're listening and you're feeling these things, this might be the catalyst, that pause that you need to reflect and understand this actually isn't the way it needs to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't need to suffer. That is a lie.
So do you think, I mean, you've kind of touched on it, but were there signs you ignored? Because I think a lot of people will relate to that. Like we just said, maybe they're ignoring signs that are telling them you're stuck. You're stuck in burnout. You're stuck in fight or flight. What were you ignoring, would you say?
I mentioned the physical signs, like injuries, my mental health, the acne, the sleep was a massive, massive thing that I really wish I understood back then. My energy was also constantly low.
Yes, I relate to that.
So there's the physical stuff, but I was also stuck in this constant cycle of people pleasing.
Hi, that's me.
Yeah. Majority of us, you're not alone, trust me, but I poured into everything and everyone, clients, colleagues, friends, family, but I never took the time to actually fill my own cup. I mean, sure, I fed myself, I took showers, I worked out, I hung out with friends, went for coffees here and there, but there was actually like a very big missing piece. And, I didn't know how to say no.
Yes. I think that's such a big thing.
Yeah.
It's okay to say no.
Yeah. But we're taught not to just because of the people pleasing, right?
Yes.
Like we feel like we have to be everything to everyone. And another thing that was a big sign was I lacked the boundaries to protect myself. Like I was on work mode 24/7. Like I had my phone on in case like something happened with the gym and this and that all day, all night, every night. And professionally, I said yes to every single opportunity, thinking this is what I should do if I want to be successful, even if it left me feeling exhausted. So in hindsight, I realized that the patterns that kept me stuck were actually rooted in fear. Fear of disappointing others, fear of being seen as selfish, and honestly, the fear of not being good enough. And I thought that by constantly giving and trying to make other people happy, that I was proving my worth. But in reality, I was running myself into the ground. I literally had nothing left to give to others. And I know, like you said, many women in the caregiving, nurturer, parent role, we can relate to this. And we often forget that we can't pour from an empty cup. And it wasn't until I came out of burnout that I started to really, really recognize those patterns for what they were. And if there's one thing that really burnt me out, like on all levels, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually, it was trying to be someone else other than myself. I was trying to be, they used to call me Kristine the Machine.
Yes, I remember that.
Right, yeah. Because I thought it's what people wanted, right? So the lack of authenticity was honestly draining my energy from the inside out. So when I was able to let go of all that and let go of everything I wasn't and the beliefs and patterns that didn't actually belong to me in the first place, I came back to me. I came back to who I really am to the core. And the burnout, along with lots of self-care, boundaries, it resolved itself.
That's incredible.
It's still a work in progress.
Well, I was just going to say that. I mean, I remember asking that of my therapist, when am I cured? When am I done?
Oh,
and we evolve. We are ever evolving beings. And so with that comes our ever evolving healing, I think. But you're right. I mean, hustle culture is real. I think there's more of an awareness now of just how toxic that is.
Yes.
But it still plagues a lot of people in a lot of jobs and a lot of family dynamics, relationships. Yep. So I'm so glad you found that clarity. What I'd love to do now is kind of turn it over to breathwork. What is it? Because when we started this episode, you talked about how you didn't really love or didn't really, find value in meditation. I find a lot of people think it's the same thing, that they're one and the same. So I'd love to unpack that a bit for our listeners, just about like what it is and how practicing breathwork changed your day-to-day life. Because I know now, having known you for as long as I have and having actually done breathwork with you as a group and individually, that it is more than just breathing. It's so much more, so transformative. So can you kind of take us through a little bit about that?
Okay.
I know this is probably, we could do like 10 episodes, but if you had to kind of tell us about breathwork.
So breathwork is like an umbrella term. There are thousands of different types of breathwork. And what breathwork is consciously breathing in a breathing pattern. I mean, you have things like box breathing, I'm sure people are familiar with. People also know 4-7-8. Some people might recognize the Wim Hof method. There's circular breath, there's conscious circular breath. So there's a lot of ways to breathe. And okay, so there's some breath work that helps calm the nervous system, helps us get out of fight or flight. And then there's some breath that actually helps us release somatically. So if we're holding tension in our body, it helps us release that. There's some breath work that connects us into our heart, so helps us connect into our intuition. And there's breath work paired with different types of other modalities, like therapeutic modalities that address the real root of, depression, anxiety, trauma stuff. So again, it really is an umbrella term. And I think that all sorts of breath work is beneficial to others, more specifically the ones that deal with the hard stuff, like the trauma. Most people use breath work to kind of push away the bad stuff. But here's the thing, that bad stuff, the hard stuff will always come back, right?
That's right.
So if we actually address the roots of why that thing is there, we can actually remove that and it no longer comes back and destroys your life. It is actually just gone. You've dealt with it. And for me, that's the most powerful. I like going deep, as you know.
Yes.
There's no other way. So it's so important.
Yeah, so you found breathwork. So I'd love to know, because we have this beautiful story of your history. How did it start to change your day-to-day life?
Okay, so the benefits of all sorts of breathwork, it compounds over time. You never just do it like one and done. So if you think about working out,
that's right.
One workout is not going to make you jack. One workout is not going to give you abs. It's a consistent thing.
If only.
Yeah, right. So breathwork is something, again, that compounds over time.
Right.
And for me, at first, the changes were like very subtle. But as I kept doing more sessions, positive shifts started to build in ways that completely transformed my life. So my depressive symptoms I was experiencing lessened.
Wow.
I didn't experience blues. Like right now, it's winter here in Canada. The lack of sun usually gets a lot of people.
Yes, it does.
It makes me tired, but it doesn't do what it used to do. It doesn't make me feel down anymore. It doesn't make me feel those physical depression symptoms.
Right.
So that's major. The things that triggered my anxiety no longer has a hold on me.
That's incredible.
Instead of getting jolted and shutting down, I just kind of, I feel it, if I get jolted. But I'm aware of it and I take that pause and like, oh, why am I scared? And then I come back to the present. Okay, I was scared of this maybe 10 years ago, but right now I'm safe, I'm good, and I can continue on. And that's a game changer for me.
Absolutely.
I was standing up for myself.
I love that.
Upholding my boundaries when people are trying to like impose their thoughts on me.
That's incredible.
Or, what they wanted, their beliefs. I was saying no with confidence. I was able to leave toxic environments and relationships, even if that meant that I had to be alone for a while. Most people are scared of saying goodbye because they don't want to be alone. But I started to cut people out of my life that were contributing to my mental health issues.
Yes, that's huge.
Oh yeah, big time. and I eventually found my people. So that's
Yes.
happy story. I felt more empowered. And the best thing I experienced was I felt like I was coming home to myself. I felt like I could be more authentic. And the lack of authenticity was the one thing that really, really burnt me out. So to be more authentic was huge for me and is still huge for me.
That's incredible.
And it helped me confront and manage my self-sabotaging behavior.
Yes.
So emotional eating, I've mentioned that several times already because it's really big in the fitness industry. I spent many years, just eating to stuff down my feelings because I couldn't handle the discomfort. And breathwork really helped me get rid of that. Like, I remember there were many times in the last 10 years where I would toss and turn at night going, oh my God, is this ever going to end? Am I ever going to stop this ridiculous cycle of emotional eating, binge eating? And sure enough, I have.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was a big deal until a client said to me one day, you overcame like an eating disorder. That's pretty huge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty awesome. And
that is incredible.
Yeah. So it helped me break a lot of patterns that were keeping me stuck. But through the practice, I started to notice how I spoke to myself.
Yes.
Instead of criticism, I offered myself compassion. Instead of tearing myself down, I started building myself up. And it's literally a 180. My life has completely changed.
This.
I mean, I'm still Kristine.
Of course.
But I'm a more authentic version of myself. So it's been big for me.
That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Again, I just keep coming back to, because I have in my mind, like, all the women that I work with, the women that I've had conversations with. And these are things that so many of them struggle with. And you're speaking to the power of the transformation that breathwork has allowed you to make. I'm at the very beginning of my journey with breathwork, but I can already say that it's just created an awareness, a curiosity. So I love what you said about less judgment. I try to be so much more gentle with myself.
Yes.
So I love all of this. This is so my jam. I want to talk about breathwork as a way to create connection. So it's not just physically, but the connection emotionally and spiritually. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. So one of the most profound things about breathwork is how it reconnects us to all the parts of ourselves. Like, we are multidimensional beings. We're not just a body and a mind, and that's separate from emotions and spirit. Like, we are all those things in one. And to understand why this is so powerful helps us go back to the roots of the word spirit. It comes from the Latin term, I'm sure I'm going to say it long, spiritus, which means the one that breathes. So the breath has always been a bridge between like the physical and the unseen, the tangible and the divine. And in the 1600s, a philosopher named René Descartes introduced the idea that the body and the mind were completely separate. And this created a framework for hundreds of years where the body was treated like a machine. And the soul and the emotions were something spiritual, untouchable, far away, belonged to the church.
Right.
And that separation stuck. And we see it everywhere today, like in Western medicine, where physical health is treated without addressing emotional or the spiritual well-being.
Yes, 100%.
Right? So breath work is so powerful because what it does, it dissolves that separation. It reminds us that we are not fragmented. It reminds us that we are whole, multidimensional beings. The same breath that moves through our lungs, it connects us to our emotions, our thoughts, and even our sense of something greater. And when we begin to breathe consciously, we're not just inhaling and exhaling, we're actually creating a bridge back to wholeness, our wholeness. And that wholeness is where healing and alignment happens. When I was taking my personal trainer certification course, one of the very first pages in the textbook, and I still have it, it left a lasting impact on me. And I'm going to actually read it. I wrote it down here. So it says this: to achieve balance, we need to care for the body, mind, and spirit. If any of these areas are consistently lacking or forgotten about, we will not be at our ultimate level of health. We are constantly challenged with balancing each of these three areas throughout life. As fitness professionals, we have a responsibility to guide and motivate others to improve their level of health and wellness. We can promote a holistic approach to health, body, mind, and spirit, not just encourage physical activity. If our focus is strictly on the physical benefits of exercise, we are doing a disservice to our clients and not fulfilling our professional obligation.
I could not agree more.
Right? And these words, they resonated deeply with me because I truly wanted to be in service to clients.
Yes.
And I wanted to create a lasting impact on their lives. But nowhere in the fitness industry did I find a way to connect to spirit until I found breathwork. And this is why I'm so freaking passionate about bringing breathwork into the fitness communities.
Yes.
I've seen firsthand what disconnection from spirit has done to one's fitness journey.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I've also witnessed how connection back to spirit has helped the hundreds of people I have worked with. And I'm so thankful to Get Sculpted for allowing me to bring breathwork, my experience, and my wisdom to support the community on a deeper level. It's almost like purpose. Oh, it's just a job. No, to me, this is a deep sense of purpose. I have a mission to let people know that breaking out of being stuck is possible. And not just fitness, but all areas of life. It's so powerful. And I'm just getting started.
Yes, you are. And I can't stress enough how grateful we are because it is changing lives in ways that I just don't think lives would be changed otherwise. And I speak from my heart when I say that, the development that I've seen in myself, again, physically, mentally, spiritually, everything, it's been catapulted by the work that you've done with our community, with me. And I'm so excited to see where this takes all the women that we work with, because I just can't stress how many times that has kept coming back. There's so many things about our community. It's so wonderful when people tell us this sets you apart. This is what makes you so special. But what keeps coming back is the breath work, the connection, the holistic approach. So I have another question because there's so much that we do, in fitness that we tell our clients, progress isn't linear, fat loss isn't linear, even muscle building. But we know that healing is not linear. So what were some of the challenges, leaning into this practice that you had, and how did you overcome them? Because we know it can be hard. You already said this. It's doing the hard work.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely hard work.
I'd love to know about that, the challenges, and how you continue to overcome them.
Well, I think for me personally, just seeing a change in myself was a big thing. And I think that this is something most people can relate to, even in the fitness, is that there's just a desire to just be done with healing and just a desire to just get to your goals.
Yep. Again, I was that person.
Yeah. We just want to get to the other side as quickly as possible. But here's the truth. No one is ever 100% healed. Healing, just like fitness, is a lifelong process. And it's not about reaching some final destination. It's about learning how to navigate the ups, the downs, that life has to offer with more grace and resilience. A big challenge for me was learning how to integrate.
Right.
I really devoted the last 4 years to a lot of breathwork and healing. And I never really had the chance to slow down and integrate all the wisdom and all the awareness into my daily life. So at one point, healing actually became overwhelming. It's kind of like if you train too much, that's too much overload on your body. So when I chose to slow down and intentionally integrate what I was learning, I started to experience more permanent changes. And for me, integration looked like creating more space for solitude. I love my solitude. Processing my emotions, challenging my thoughts, listening to my body and the physical sensation, more prayer, connecting into spirit and universal energy, and getting familiar with my own energy, learning that if someone tosses some shade at me, it's not mine, that's yours. I've learned that, the way that people treat you is really a projection of their own stuff. So that was a big thing. And then making small conscious choices in my daily life that aligned with the person I wanted to become. So, hopping back into the fitness journey, because I took a lot of time off, especially during my burnout. I had to make conscious choices. I was burnt out, but I needed to go for my walk. I needed to eat because if not, I would have not sustained the journey.
Yeah.
So overcoming these challenges was about showing up consistently and also imperfectly.
Right.
It wasn't too long ago that I made the choice to like fully surrender and trust that every step forward, no matter how difficult, was part of the journey. And the best part of this journey in general for me is that every day I get to choose and create a life that feels aligned and authentic with my heart and soul.
Oh, I love that. That is so, so powerful. Oh, okay. I would love now to bring this back to where so many of our listeners are. Okay. So a lot of them are trying to balance their fitness, their health, and life without burning out. We already talked about it. A lot of them don't even necessarily realize it, but they are experiencing those feelings of burnout.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know how you feel breathwork supports the physical transformation, because the reality is a lot of women come to us looking for a physical transformation, which of course we can give them, but we can give them that now so much more holistically with the power of breathwork.
Yes.
So can you talk to us about that connection? How does breathwork support the physical transformation?
Well, before we go there, I want everyone to know that your physical is like the last thing that shows like symptoms, something that's tangible, right?
Yes.
So if the mental and the emotional are not in alignment, not healthy, not in balance, then the physical will suffer. That's whether through injury, acne, all the stuff that we talked about. So breath work, sure, it helps the spirit, it helps the emotions, it helps the mental, but all those together is going to help support a long-lasting physical transformation. So things like increasing our capacity for change. A lot of people don't like sitting in discomfort.
Yep, it's true.
Right? And it's easier to actually sit in physical discomfort than it is like emotional discomfort. So the problem is that, again, we're not separate. So a physical journey actually has a lot to do with emotional discomfort. So it actually increases our capacity for change. It also helps return the body to the rest and digest mode. So it actually helps calm the stress down in your body. It improves sleep quality. So sleep is extremely important when it comes to recovery and weight loss and muscle building. I mentioned this earlier, increases emotional resilience. So you don't want to do that wall sit. Well, guess what? Your emotional resilience is going to help you through that. It eliminates limiting beliefs that are actually holding you back. So if you have a constant belief, I can't do a pull-up, I can't do a pull-up, you're going to look for everything in your environment to, you know, or I can't lose weight, I have this, I have that. Well, it's going to actually manifest in a physical form. So, you know, it really helps eliminate those limiting beliefs that are keeping us stuck. It releases also like the layers of physical and emotional tension. So being a personal trainer for many, many years, people foam rolled, people fascial stretch therapy, all that stuff, massage therapy. And what we don't know is that there's actually something called armoring. And when we don't process our emotions, our body actually takes the hit of tightening up.
Yes, it does.
So breath work, all sorts of breath work, can help reduce muscle tension related to unprocessed trauma and emotions held in the body.
That's very powerful.
Oh, yeah. I had a neck issue for 2 years and I finally addressed it with breath work. And it was all like unprocessed emotional stuff. And touch wood, it hasn't been back since. But it's massive for people.
That's incredible.
So things like interrupting and breaking patterns of self-sabotage, which I know I experienced as a trainer and as just a human being. And I'm sure you've experienced as well. It enhances mental clarity. So we are in an industry where there's a lot of like comparison noise, so to speak.
Yes.
So it's important to like, you know, when you're scrolling through Instagram and you see something, you're like, that's not for me, instead of just getting enveloped in it and taken down and spiraling into like, I'm not good enough. So that's really important.
Right.
It also increases hope. Now, hope for me is a big thing. It's the most important part, especially because when people are stuck with their physical transformation, people give up without hope. If they don't see a change, if they don't feel a change, they give up. And without hope that things can get better, like that's it for people. I've seen people give up many times. So, you know, that's really important. Now, these things are so important for physical transformation. You do your job, you give them the nutrition, you coach them, but like this stuff is like the foundation of a long-lasting physical transformation. So those are some of the benefits.
Yeah, that's an amazing list of benefits. I know there are tons more.
Tons.
One of my favorite sayings, I don't think I made it up, but I'm going to take some of the credit for it. But I tell my clients, the body is the byproduct.
Yep.
So all of these things you're talking about, like doing this work, it translates into the body. I have so many examples in my own life of when I was going through extreme burnout, because I was doing all the things, Kristine, like I was eating on plan and working out, in fact, almost obsessively, and my body wasn't budging because all these things that you talked about were not in alignment with myself, where I needed to be. And so it's very frustrating because I thought I'm doing all the right things, but it's because I hadn't addressed the deeper things. So incredible.
Yeah. Powerful stuff.
So one of the things I want to talk about next is about finding freedom through breathwork. So you've talked to us about the physical, but I want to know a little bit more about how it allows people to show up more fully. So not just in the gym, we know that it will happen, but like relationships, career, everyday life.
So freedom through breathwork is about more than just releasing like tension or stress. It's really about connecting who you are to the core, your authentic self, and breaking free from patterns, beliefs, and programming that has held you back. So breathwork creates a space where people can let go of the emotional baggage they've been carrying, whether it's fear, shame, unresolved emotions like anger, sadness, or grief. Like this release allows people to show up more fully in their lives. And in the gym, this might look like someone approaching their fitness journey with a new mindset, not one that's driven by punishment or perfectionism or comparison, but by self-love and empowerment. They're more present in their workouts, they're more in tune with their bodies, and they're less likely to compare themselves to others. But the freedom breathwork offers goes far beyond fitness. It literally flows into every area of your life. Relationships.
Yes, I love that.
People start to show up with more compassion towards self and others, more kindness, more patience. They communicate more openly and authentically. They set healthier boundaries and they build deeper connections with themselves. And that in turn helps us build deeper connections with others. So breathwork, it does a lot and it's different for each person and it's completely experiential, but it's super powerful. And do you know what freedom looks like? It looks like being in the present moment, the ability to enjoy the simple moments without being weighed down by the past or anxious thoughts about the future. Like it's waking up with energy, clarity, gratitude, and it's about creating a life that ultimately is in alignment internally and externally. But ultimately, breathwork allows people to reclaim their personal power and live in alignment with who they are on a soul level. And that sense of freedom translates into every aspect of their lives and enabling them to step into their potential with confidence, joy, and authenticity.
I love that so much. Oh, you have shared so much wisdom today. And what really stands out in this conversation is that healing, growth, and even progress in our fitness, it's not about pushing harder, which so many of us have been conditioned to think that it is. It's about creating space, and breathwork gives us that space to breathe, to reflect, to move forward. So I want to close with one last question because I want you to speak directly to the woman listening right now who feels like she is stuck. So this could be in fitness, mindset, life in general, you know, someone who feels like they're carrying way too much, but they have no idea how to let go. What would you say to that person?
Well, first I want to say is that you're not alone and it's okay to feel that way. But most importantly is that there is a way out. There is hope. There is a path for you to find freedom. So many of us carry the weight of unrealistic expectations, self-doubt, and old patterns that just honestly no longer serve us. But the truth is transformation, whether in fitness or relationships or life, starts with an awareness that this present moment is not what we want for ourselves anymore. It starts with choosing to take that path and choosing to let go of what's really weighing us down. Even if it's difficult, like in a fitness journey, letting go might mean releasing the belief that you have to be perfect to see results. It's letting go of the punishment. It's to care, like you move your body in a way that feels good. And it's powerful. Like breathwork has really taught me that letting go is an act of courage.
Yes, it is.
An act of self-compassion. It's about releasing that inner dialogue that says you're not enough or that your worth is tied to an outcome or a number on the scale. When you breathe consciously, you're creating space to feel, process, and release what's been holding you back, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And so if you're feeling stuck, I would invite you to take a breath in through the nose and into the heart and ask your heart, what am I ready to let go of? What is no longer serving me? What is keeping me stuck? And start there, asking yourself, why am I hurting? Those questions, a lot of stuff can come from the right questions. So if you ask yourself those questions, a lot can come up. And when you say yes to being like, this is not for me anymore, beautiful things start happening for you. The right people show up. You find the answer that you've been looking for. So you're not stuck. You just haven't asked the right question. So I invite you to ask the right question. Each small act of letting go creates space for something new to emerge. So if you want something new, you got to let something go. So each step forward is forward, like no matter how small. So trust your heart, trust your breath. It will never, ever leave you astray.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your story and all of this wisdom.
You're welcome.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. You are a gift to our community and to our listeners now that they've had an opportunity to share this experience with you. And you've reminded us that, healing and progress, it's not about perfection at all. It's about being present. So can you let our listeners know if they want to learn more, if they want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
So right now you can find me only on Instagram.
Okay.
You can find me with my Soulful Breaths account is soulful.breaths. And then my personal account is Kristine, Kristine. No space. My last name is Rafanan, Rafanan. And if you just type those in, you can find me.
He will appear. And we'll make sure to put those in the show notes.
Yes, thank you. One of my very favorite quotes that I love signing off with in almost every podcast that I do is this: for what it's worth, it is never too late, or in my case, too early, to be whoever you want to be. There is no time limit. Start whenever you want. You can change or stay the same. There are no rules to this thing. We can make the best of it or the worst of it. I hope you make the best of it. I hope you see things that startle you. I hope you feel things you've never felt before. I hope you meet people who have a different point of view. I hope you live a life you're proud of. And if you're not, I hope you have the courage to start over again. And that's by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And it really reminds me that it's never too late to start over or embrace who you're meant to be. So I hope this quote inspires you to take that first step too.
I love that so much. And if you loved this episode, we would love for you to take a moment to leave us a review and share it with someone who could use a reminder that there is always a path forward. That's a perfect quote to end this. And if you want to dive deeper into breathwork, I encourage you to connect with Kristine at Soulful Breaths. And also let this episode be your own reminder that the first step to healing starts with one breath. Tune in next week where Coach Tiana is going to be having an awesome conversation with another one of our incredible Get Sculpted coaches, Lindsay Craig, and they'll be talking about how you can find strength and resilience through your health and fitness, even through life's darkest moments. Until then, have a good one. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Get Sculpted. We hope you feel inspired, empowered, and ready to take the next step in your fitness journey. Remember, building your 2.0 body is a unique journey for you. It's about showing up for yourself consistently and not being perfect.
If you loved today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a review and tag us on social at getsculpted.ca. Your feedback helps us reach more women like you who are ready to cut through the noise and make lasting changes.
For more daily tips, inspiration, and behind-the-scenes content, follow us on Instagram and check out our handles in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Get Sculpted. Until then, remember this: getting sculpted isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter.